back and forth.
I think so are many Americans, far more
Okay,
Americans than there are NFL players.
Can I finish my question, please? Thank you. Many NFL players are very upset. Many people had different ideas and opinions on this, but when the president weighed in, the NFL said we're going to be united. There is an anticipation that it could grow even more so this weekend. What is the president anticipating? What should we expect him to say about this? It's now the NFL against the president.
I think the president's made very clear this shouldn't be about the NFL being against the president. This should be about our country coming together to support the flag, support the national anthem. There's nothing wrong with having pride in the United States. This president's been very clear on that, and he's certainly not going to back away from it.
Okay, so the NFL players, what we're hearing, it's not about not having pride. They're saying they're patriots. They love this country, but they're challenging the system, and they're looking at history like the challenge of the system when it came to women's rights issues as well as civil rights. What does the president say when you look at history and see how people love this country but wanted to challenge the system to make it better?
I think if we're going to look at history, we should look at the thousands of Americans who have given their life to protect that flag, to protect that anthem. We should be celebrating those people. I gave you a chance to answer. I'm going to finish your statement. We should be looking at every way we can to celebrate our country, bring it together, not looking at ways to divide it. The president is simply talking about what we're for, not about what we're against. And certainly this administration will always be for protection and celebration of the flag and the national anthem, and that's not going to change.
Sarah, wait a minute, to clarify. Sarah, 1 second, just to clarify on that.
I don't think there's much to clarify.
Yes,
I think
it is.
was
Yes,
pretty,
this is a big
pretty
issue.
black and white there.
People are very divided on this issue. It is a racial issue for some people, and the question is, when the military issue is brought in, the military goes and fights for the freedoms of this nation, and the players are saying they are thankful for the military service to allow them to have the freedoms to do this. I mean, is there some kind of confusion here, or is it us versus them kind of scenario?
It certainly shouldn't be. As I've said several times before, this isn't an us versus them. This should be something that brings our country together. These are symbols of what our country stands for, and this should be the opposite of what that is. This should be a very unifying moment when the national anthem plays. All Americans should be proud to stand up, salute that flag, salute that anthem, and be part of that process. Go ahead.
That he believes NFL team owners are afraid of their players. What do you mean by that?
Probably the backlash of the players and the stance that they're making, and not wanting to create that conflict within their team. President is here to lead the country. He feels very strongly about this, as do most Americans, because they certainly agree with him, as we've seen not just in the public support, but also in public polling on that very, very specific issue. Sure.
Does Secretary Price expect to keep his job in this administration?
I think the president's addressed this yesterday. We're going through this process. We're going to conduct a full review, and we'll see what happens.
Sarah, two questions. One, I know you said the White House doesn't approve charter flights ahead of time, but generally speaking, given the focus of the president on cost saving, like you said, he wanted not just drain the swamp, but he wanted people to spend money in more responsible ways. Is there a policy of the administration for government employees and cabinet members to try to fly commercial? Do they have any guidance? Were they given any guidance as to how they should be traveling?
Yeah, we're looking into that. When it comes to military aircraft, that's a part where the White House does actually play a role. And on that front, the Trump administration has actually authorized far fewer flights for senior government officials than the Obama administration did during the same time period. And so we're continuing to look at ways to bring that back under the places where the White House has that direct control and authority, which is under military aircraft, which we've cut back significantly at this point.
I just want to follow up on the Roy Moore comments. I know you don't want to talk about the race, but from the podium, do you want to at least condemn some of those sentiments that you said the president, to your knowledge, does not share?
I would certainly say we don't agree with those comments, but in terms of whether or not I'm going to get into the back and forth over another candidate, we're here to focus on the president's agenda, and those are the questions and the people that I can answer for. Jeff.
One more question on Secretary Price's flight. You said the White House was not aware of it, but on at least one of those flights, a senior advisor, Kellyanne Conway, was flying with him on the private flight. Are you looking into that one specifically to see if the White House knew about that?
I didn't say we weren't aware. I said the White House doesn't authorize those private charter flights. Again, we're doing a full, not just of that flight, but an internal review at HHS of all private charter flights, as well as an IG review that'll be conducted of all of them, not just any one particular flight. So that'll be very thorough. Julie?
Follow up. If the president, as he's watching this coverage in Puerto Rico, is he satisfied with what he sees as the response here? Is he satisfied in what he's hearing from his advisors, or would he like to see things moving along faster, as some of people on the ground have asked for?
The president wants to continue to do everything we can to protect the safety and security of the people, both at the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. We're continuing to do that, as Tom spoke very in depth about that process and what it looks like. That's our focus. That's what we're going to be continue to do. People first, paperwork second. The president has empowered all of his agencies to go forward with that mindset, and that's what we're going to continue to do. Julie?
I saw that Secretary Price was here today for an event with the First Lady. Did the President have the chance to sit down and talk with him about this issue of his private jet use, or has he had a one-on-one conversation with the Secretary about that? And when you said that the White House has ordered a halt on all of these flights, is that administration-wide, White House people, every agency? You said particularly with regard to HHS?
That's specific to HHS. I don't know that they spoke today, but I know they have spoken about this issue previously. I don't believe the president saw the secretary at any point today, though.
So then following up on that, does the president believe, or does anyone at the White House think that there has been a tone set at the top here that has allowed cabinet members to feel empowered to be able to take private jet flights when they're going on official travel? I mean, we now have the HHS secretary, the EPA administrator, the Treasury secretary took a flight on a private jet and an itinerary that's widely available commercially. Is there something that the president has said or done to set this tone that this is okay? And what is
Not at all, and I think the president's been clear about what his position is by stating very clearly that he is not thrilled with the airplane use at this point. Catherine?
Two things. One, I just want to make sure I understand the extent of the review process here into Price and others. You said there's an IG review, there's an HHS review. Is there a White House component? And is Price being looked at, or is anyone who's been accused of?
And for HHS specifically, they're conducting an internal review as well as an IG review. The White House is looking at more of an overall, not specific to that department, because there's already 2 reviews taking place there.
Okay, also, Sarah, the president said that he would donate personal funds, I think $1 million to Harvey relief. Is he making any kind of personal donation to Puerto Rico?
I haven't talked to him specifically about that, but he didn't make a donation to Harvey Relief. He made a donation to relief organizations, the Red Cross and many others that are part of all of the hurricanes that we've experienced over the last several weeks. And so those organizations aren't limited to a specific, nor those donations, a specific storm, but they go to those organizations that are helping aggressively and intensely in the recovery efforts in the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico as well.
Obviously, the president didn't support Roy Moore in the primary, but he's moved to kind of warmly embrace him since then. But I guess what I'm wondering is, Judge Moore has made a series of controversial comments saying homosexual conduct should be illegal, equating being gay to bestiality, saying that a lawmaker who's Muslim shouldn't be allowed to serve. I'm wondering why those comments shouldn't disqualify him from a presidential endorsement, particularly considering that in the campaign trail, the president promised to be advocates for those groups.
As we've said many times before, I'm not going to get into back and forth on political endorsements from the podium, so I'm not going to weigh in on a specific race ahead of time at this point. Matthew.
Thanks, Sarah. I want to follow up on that because, as you mentioned, Judge Moore has homosexuality should be illegal. He said that Sandy Hook was some sort of divine retribution. He said Keith Ellison should not be permitted to serve in Congress because he's a Muslim. So without asking about the specifics of the race, does President Trump share any of those views that I just mentioned? And if not, why does he think this person is fit to be a U.S. Senator?
Not that I'm aware of. I have not taken a deep dive on every comment that the senator or the Senate nominee has made, but I certainly know where the president stands on those issues and wouldn't see any parallel between the two of them on that front.
Are there any beliefs a candidate could hold or actions a candidate could take that if he were still a Republican, the president would not endorse him?
I'm not going to get into every potential hypothetical that any potential candidate may or may not have over the course of the time that the president is the president. I know where the president stands on specific issues. That's what I can speak about, not somebody else that's a candidate for another office that's not here. Brian?
Cochran and the
We'll
healthcare
make this the
vote.
last question.
You said about
I forgot.
You had said about Senator Cochran and the healthcare vote that it was the White House's understanding that Senator Cochran was not able to physically be here this week. Well, Senator Cochran's office has said that there have been plans made for Senator Cochran to come to Washington if there was going to be a healthcare vote. Was the White House not aware that those plans had been made?
That was our understanding, as I said, that the senator was physically